How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Bear Boy Show. Right, so indie games have become, quite a thing, or more so of a thing in the past 10 years or so, right? Give or take. Possibly due to the tools needed to make, some of the games that we come to love today becoming more easily accessible and more simplified for even artists like myself to jump into and throw some small things together and watch it come to life. And then jump off the edge in a very non-suicidal manner over and over again just to see if the respawn point code actually works. But seriously though, it's actually really cool to see what creative minds can do when they get their hands on this software. From booting up the Nintendo eShop to going to conventions like PAX East. I love seeing what my fellow indie mates are cooking up through sleepless nights for us to enjoy down the road. Now before we get into talking about any indie games in specific, I gotta say that when it comes to dogs, corgis are definitely my favorite. Not only are they one of the cutest pets to have, but if you dress it up just right, they're one of the coolest boys on the block. That's why when I heard about the upcoming game, Breeze in the Clouds, I just had to follow along with this creation. Development is still progressing, and there's still not much yet finalized to show off, but I want to bring a very special person, so to speak, on the show to talk a bit more about the game and what we have to look forward to when it does release. Without further ado, I would like to welcome on the show, SrBilyon Harris. So, bud, for the viewers at home, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the game it is that you're working on?
Sure. So my name's SrBilyon. I'm the lead developer on an indie game called Breeze in the Clouds. It's a 2D action-adventure game starring a corgi character that's basically exploring this weather world along with a bunch of other different characters that actually take animal forms who are actually responsible for different weather functions. Right now within their world, there's a lot of different issues going on with the weather, and Breeze kind of gets mixed up and ends up helping them out along the way, as well as acquiring different weather powers and basically just exploring the world and learning about it.
So the game's been in development for a while now, right? How has it changed, and how much has it changed since its original inception?
So I've actually been working on Breeze for a pretty long time. It kind of came up as an idea that it came about on a ride home from college back in 2011. Around that time, I was actually learning Unity and several other different game engines, and I was really eager to actually begin working on a project. So the little idea that came along while I was daydreaming was actually about a dog, not really a specific breed at the time, but breed at the time, but he was actually inside of this cloud that was malfunctioning, and he was doing everything he could to try to fix it. And that kind of was the initial premise of just having kind of like this dog that's exploring these different clouds and trying to fix them, and just climbing these, they're just really tall tower-like clouds. So I began developing it as a 3D platformer of sorts, focused on just climbing and finding things and fixing them. I introduced some combat elements to it, which you can actually find on some of the old development videos I actually have on my YouTube, and was kind of working it as a 3D platformer for a while.
Wow, that really is quite a change there, but it's a good one if you ask me. I really like the direction that you have going so far. But what would you say are some of the struggles and benefits of these changes?
So struggling with that for a bit, I kind of sat back and tried to look into, what type of goals I want to achieve with the game. Because back then, my ideas and kind of, there weren't a whole lot of goals, to be honest. I just had a very general premise, and while trying to force a lot of game design things based off of some influences, and really just realizing that a lot of those influences weren't even 3D games to begin with, I kind of took a break from the project for a bit, and a lot of that was because of some of the stuff I mentioned before. I also had a bit of a failed crowdfunding attempt, so I was kind of working in developing the project, using my own funds for a bit. But yeah, I took a break from the project. I was working on a couple of other projects, and I came back to Breeze again, sat down to really think about what I wanted to do, and ultimately I actually decided to take Breeze in a 2D route, which of course meant a lot of very loose ideas were scrapped from the 3D side of things. but certain things I was able to retain. So some of the immediate benefits, I found out while working on the 3D part just kind of how difficult, at least at the time for me, it was to do a lot of the 3D modeling, the animations, and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do from a design standpoint. Another big thing was actually designing and developing the world turned out to be a little more trickier than I thought, seeing how as the world itself is actually in the clouds, and I wanted to make sure that the design and the levels really showed that. Modeling clouds and making them kind of believable is a bit difficult. In hindsight, some games like Mario Galaxy, I think the second one, utilize clouds. But at the time, I really couldn't find a lot of references in terms of, producing a look for these clouds. I also went the route of making them out of particles, which I found out was a very bad idea, because a lot of particles on the screen. It's not very good for people who may be playing on a toaster, or even people who are playing it on like a high-end graphics card. So switching over to 2D was a pretty big, created a pretty big solution for that, because I could have them drawn or painted and whatnot. And some of the other benefits too, I kind of mentioned it earlier, was the 3D animation part of it. I actually spent a lot of my time trying to learn how to do that, the animation, as well as even trying to find people to help out on the animation side of things. And back then, I was a college student. I couldn't really afford to find somebody to help out with 3D modeling and animation and all of that. But switching over to 2D, well, I believe that it would alleviate that issue, but I found out 2D animation isn't exactly cakewalk either, so... but it allows me to kind of, don't want to use the word cheat, but I can be a lot more cartoony and expressive, like, I would really want Breeze to look. But yeah, I talked a lot about the benefits, but as far as struggles with the changes, of course, a lot of animation is needed for the type of approach or the type of direction I want to go from an animation standpoint, as well as making sure that even though I don't have to worry about creating these 3D clouds and other things, having a good aesthetic for the backgrounds and the areas that these characters would explore.
Well, I think you've got a good hold on the direction you chose to go with. Granted, it is a costly one like you did mention, but I really think it's going to help the game stand out. So what are some of the games and media that inspired you to make this game?
Good question. So, I'm inspired by a lot of different things. So maybe not even necessarily games, but like cartoons, and anime especially were big influences. But I've always been a really big fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Very strong character design, very distinct palettes between different characters, just a very charming aesthetic. And I really especially love the different zones that exist in the Sonic games, how distinct they are and memorable. That's definitely something I'm trying to tackle right now with the game, is making sure that the levels and the areas are very memorable and very distinct. Of course, I've got to definitely say that the Mario games were a big influence, it being a platformer and all. I also really liked Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. I like the platforming in that game a lot. Also had very nice aesthetic. There are some other different games. Some people may or may not know these. Tumba for the PS1 was a pretty big influence, more so than I thought. It was probably one of the first platformers I actually played, because I got into Nintendo kind of late, other than Sonic, which is Sega, of course. There's also a couple of RPGs. There's some elements from these RPGs that kind of found their way into Breeze. There's a game called Brave Fencer Musashi for the PS1. Really big favorite of mine growing up. I played that game so many times. Some of the ideas of elemental powers kind of came from that game. There was Kingdom Hearts is another really big influence. along with Smash Brothers when it comes to the combat system. You'll see a lot, or if you've seen some of the videos that I've got out there with the dev progress, you may see some of the Smash Brothers influence. Kingdom Hearts, you'll probably have to wait a bit longer to see where some of the influences for that came from.
Oh man, you're hurting me here.
There's some elements from a couple other games. Digimon World 3, I'm not going to disclose what elements from that snuck into it, but you'll find out eventually. Final Fantasy IX, more still from a narrative standpoint, but it was one of the first Final Fantasy games that I played. Of course, the best one that's come out, so of course it's an influence.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of different anime influences found their way into the game. Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon of all anime, several other ones. Pretty much all the big 90s animes found their way into the game somehow.
Alright, good stuff. So we got your Sonic, you got your Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Smash, and anime. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a good time. I really can't wait. Speaking of Smash, that sound means it's game time. Basically, it means that we're gonna take a little bit of a break from the interview to play some games together. So I hope you're ready for the challenge, because it's about to get crazy, Bear Boy style.
Oh, and he's using my hat? This is illegal.
Alright, see how this goes.
Let's be out of anger from Kingdom Hearts 3.
No! Oh man, my legs are too short. What?
Oh man. Okay. Let's say that was not about to happen. That was my fault.
Ooh.
That was completely my fault. Ah.
Kubo.
You were good at this game.
I might not be able to fight against itty bitties, but I can definitely fight against big boys.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Woo!
No, you can't do that to me. Bye.
Oh no! Oh, like near instantaneous.
Kubo.
Oh. lovely Breeze artwork drawn by yours truly.
Oh man, this is sweet.
I'm glad you like it, man. Enjoy it. We at least gotta play some more games later on, but right now game time is over, so let's get back to those questions. How long has the idea of making a game like this been on your mind?
So the idea kind of came about, I know I mentioned it was kind of during a bus ride home. So the idea kind of stuck in my head for probably like 15 minutes and I wrote it down. I have a lot of ideas that just kind of come about. Like I said, I'm influenced pretty easily. I used to actually carry around a few notebooks where I would just come up with an idea, write it down really quick, close the book, rinse and repeat. And sometimes when the really strong ideas kind of stick, I would just begin developing them a bit more. But yeah, for Breeze's case, it was almost immediate. Like I was like, I want to do this. I want a game about a dog climbing things or exploring things. So, fun little factoid here. I actually grew up with a lot of dogs in my household. Probably within my lifetime, I've had about 15 dogs. So, not all at once, but just, kind of over time. But definitely having dogs in media or seeing dogs in media is always like, yeah, this is totally my thing. So, the idea of a dog in clouds, of course I had to develop that idea. Why wouldn't I? So.
So even though there's only one correct answer to this, which is actually your favorite breed of dog?
Ooh, can't answer that question. They're all great. Of course I love corgis. I grew up with a lot of labs, a lot of pits, a lot of, I had one Rottweiler. I had an Australian Shepherd, had a German Shepherd. Haven't had a lot of small dogs. If I were to get a small dog, it'd be a corgi. That's like my next step there. There's a lot of big dogs that'd be cool to have. I don't know where they would sleep. They'd probably take up a lot of space in my room. Get like a Samoyed or Saint Bernard or something. That'd be cool. Get a Bernese, or what's that one? A Pyrenees. That'd be cool. I think that's the breed. Big fluffy dog. Here it's.
Is that like a Chow Chow?
No, this one's it's a really big dog with a lot of white fur. I'll send that one to you later.
So what's a website or some of the social media pages that you run that we can use to follow the game's updates?
Yeah, so there's actually a few places that you can check out some of the progress. Patreon is probably the go-to place, but I also have our old blog, which is hosted on Tumblr. So you can get some of the same updates between both of those two. I've also been a bit more active on Twitter, so you can find some updates there. Sometimes I post some GIFs or videos on Saturdays, hopefully. But yeah, between those three, you'll get plenty of information about the progress of the game.
Alright, I'll make sure to link those in the description below so that people can check them out.
Oh, there's also our Discord group, which you can find a link to that somewhere. I'll have him posted in the video.
Alright, if it works, there should be a link that came up on the screen, so check that out for him. Alrighty, so for our final question, how is funding going, and do you have any interesting stories so far about it?
Yeah, so we actually launched a Patreon a few months back. Admittedly a bit hesitant about launching it, just because we didn't see a lot of different games to kind of gauge, like, what type of stuff patrons would like. But we actually went ahead and launched it, and immediately it actually took off. So that really happy that people are interested in the project and are willing to actually help fund the progress and whatnot. And it's also supplied kind of a nice and neat little format to have some of these reoccurring updates available to everyone out there. Right now, most of the posts are actually publicly available, and we have a couple of little treats here and there for some of the patrons in certain tiers.
Nice, man. Good stuff. It's definitely admirable when you have people that's in your circle that's willing to back your dreams, and that's something I feel like everybody needs, but push along that extra mile to help you achieve what you want. So again, with that being said, I really can't wait to see where you're heading with the game. But before we wrap this up, do you want to say anything to the viewers at home?
Crap, no. I can't think.
Alright, well, there you go, guys. There's your answer.
Yeah, so if you're interested in the project, I'm pretty sure the links will be added to the description. And I look forward to, continuing development of the game, getting it out there to everyone, and kind of sharing the overall progress and development updates along the way.
Nice, man. Well, definitely good stuff to hear there. And no worries, I got you on the links. I'll definitely put them down there below. I just want to give you a big thanks for coming out here on the show and taking the time out of your busy schedule, to come on here and really do this interview. I've been really waiting to get to do this for a while, and I'm glad that you're the first person to come and do it.
Oh, I appreciate you for having me. It was really fun.
Definitely, man. Anytime. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to watch today's episode. Remember, you can keep up with the game's progress by checking out the links in the description, and keep an eye on the game because it's definitely looking like it's shaping up to be something really good when it releases. It's definitely on my list. Hopefully it's on yours. So before you go, leave a like, drop a comment below to let us know what you thought about today's episode, and remember to subscribe for all things Bear Boy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Laters.